Coming up on Theater Talk.
Well,
There's
along
a story
with everything
around it.
else.
There's a big star coming in next year, and his base salary will be $130,000.
Who's that?
Tom Hanks?
It's a rumor. I don't know that it's true. But if it is true,
Yeah.
think about it. What is it, big $1 million ticket?
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm producer Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Falling.
Susan, don't scare me like that, please, guys.
Once on this island, right? Love that show.
That's fabulous.
What was that, Susan?
It was once the Tony Smash musical, won almost every category.
Wait, that was a song?
I was watching Family Guy. I don't know.
It's like the rest of the world. It's time for our annual Tony wrap-up. Last Sunday night, Once won 8 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. Clybourne Park won for Best Play. Porgy and Bess, a surprise, won the Best Revival of a Musical, and Death of a Salesman won Best Revival. Here to make sense of the awards, the winners and the losers, we are joined by our regular panel of experts. Michael Musto from The Village Voice.
Just want to say it's an honor to be raped by Philip Boykin every night.
Now, you better explain that line, Michael.
That was Audra McDonald's acceptance speech from Porgy and Bess, because she plays Bess, who was raped by the character in the show.
And it was an incorrect remark, which is why I kind of liked it.
Exactly. And do you have a song for us, Michael? Is Susan Head falling slowly for us?
Porgy as your
No, stop it! No.
No.
Stop it! You stopped that right
Very good.
now.
That's very good,
That
Michael.
was well sung.
Very well said. I like that.
I'm raping the score.
Join the club.
Anyway, I'm very proud, Michael, to say that I did 100% with my predictions here. Every one of them was wrong.
Okay, excellent. Right. We're also joined by Jesse Green of New York Magazine. And Jesse, a song from you, please, from one of this year's Tony nominees or winners?
Privately later.
It's like falling slowly, privately later.
That song's very adaptable. You can put any words.
It's like Suddenly Seymour.
And Patrick Pacheco, who always raises his voice in song on this show, from New York One on Stage and the LA Times. A song from you, Patrick, of one of the shows that won this year?
I'm the king of New York, Michael.
That's right.
Yeah, but a song, Patrick.
Oh, you are the king of New York.
I am.
You
That's the
are.
Rex Harrison version.
Roll the videotape. Roll the videotape at our last prediction show.
You have some crow
After
teeth.
you introduced me as the spectacularly wrong Patrick Pacheco for every prediction, I think I was the only one that predicted Once would win,
Oh, you did?
and the only one who predicted Steve Kazee would win.
Wow, well, a stop clock is right twice a day. So
I don't mean to gloat
Let's not
or
get into the other
dance in the
24
end zone.
categories. Yeah, you did terrific.
No more LaShawns.
All right,
Marks.
Michael.
Michael.
The big surprise, I thought, was Porgy and Bess beating Follies. I think all of us thought Follies.
No, I said Porgy and Bess.
You did.
Oh, my God, a panel of gloaters.
I'm sorry, but
King of New York.
thank you very
Why
much.
did you think Porgy and Bess?
Well, I thought Porgy and Bess because it's still running.
Yes.
And because the Tony Award would have a chance to do something for it. And I don't know how individuals make their choices when they're voting, but I think they thought Follies did well and it was done. It didn't need anything. And Porgy and Bess, as I said, and I think we all felt, was better than you might have expected from the controversy that preceded.
The controversy being that Stephen Sondheim publicly attacked the show for being sort of tampered with to make it accessible for contemporary audience.
And stories come and go so quickly nowadays that the whole Sondheim controversy evaporated immediately. People saw the show. If they weren't purists, they were like, I enjoyed it. It was good.
But-
and most importantly, it was still running.
After they got the award, Jeffrey Richards, the producer, and Susan Laurie Park and the director, Diane Paulus, came into the press room, and someone asked them about that Sondheim controversy, and it was very much on their mind. Jeffrey had almost a prepared statement about it and how that Sondheim had been passionate, and he wished that Sondheim would come see it. Apparently, he hasn't gone to it. And Susan Laurie Park had tears in her eyes, and I asked her why she had tears in her eyes, and she said, well, we stuck to our guns, we did what was right, and we prevailed. I mean, they were really had this thing very much on their minds still.
But I don't know that the voters did. I'm sure
No,
they
but-
did. but-
Well, that said, Jeffrey Richards, I ran into him right after the show, and he said, because I had mentioned in my column the Friday before the Tonys, reminded people of the Sondheim controversy, and he said he got 20 calls from people who told him they voted for Porgy and Bess because they thought that it was unfair, Steve, to be running down Porgy and Bess when he had Follies.
Oh, I see a great scheme for next year.
I know, that's right. No, but you know, the theme of this year's winners is if you get knocked by really powerful people, you win, because Porgy and Bess got knocked by Sondheim, it won, and Clybourne Park was knocked by Scott Rudin when he had a fight with the playwright Bruce Norris, and he dropped it. Jude Jamson picked it up, put it back together, and it won.
It may also have something to do with its being an excellent play. But
Yes,
probably,
quality has nothing to do with who wins the Tony Award.
I think this year
Yeah, you may
it
agree.
did to some extent.
Patrick, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Sondheim didn't have any calculation behind what he was doing. If you read his first volume of lyrics, the first couple of pages are devoted to DuBose Hayward. I mean, and that was in 2010. That was long before there was any possibility of
And
this
remember,
kind of
Sondheim
competition.
was upset because they called it the Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, thereby minimizing Du Bois Hayward, the librettist contribution to the.
Exactly, and I totally agree with Jesse. I mean, ultimately, I think they come down to what did I enjoy the most?
And there's something about Follies where it seems cursed. It's never won like 8,000 times. Every time it's revived, it's
Yeah,
up
every
again.
time it gets nominated,
The original production lost to Two Gentlemen of Verona. Hello?
Michael, I want to talk about James Corden and Philip Seymour Hoffman, because while I predicted James Corden, not on this show, but in my column. Thank you very much.
I did too, invisibly in my room somewhere.
But your editor cut it out somehow.
Well, I predicted James Corden in the New York Post. Thank you very much. The sentiment seemed to be for Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Scott Rudin was really aggressively campaigning for Death of a Salesman, all those ads and appearances and all that kind of stuff. Were you surprised that James Corden picked off?
I was
Seymour Hoffman?
surprised because, as I said right here on Theater Talk, I thought the fact that his, quote, spontaneous interactions with the audience were not really spontaneous would hurt him. But just like the Sondheim letter, that evaporated and people just went with what they enjoyed. I actually think they made brilliant choices this year that were not clouded by celebrity and dazzle. In the past few years, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Scarlett Johansson, Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, big stars have won all the awards if they were nominated. Not that they didn't deserve it, but this year they didn't care who was more famous. Andrew Garfield out the door in favor of Christian Borle, who's on Smash, so he's a star himself.
Gigantic.
You know, but he's more part of the theater club.
And Michael McGraw, he was fabulous. And he's not a well-known actor in the big wider world.
The choices this year were superb. I cannot really fault them. To go with Nina Arianda over more famous people, to go with James Corden.
Over James Earl Jones and Frank Langella and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
And I wish you
John
could cut to
Lithgow.
James Earl Jones's face when he looked super confused when he heard James and was like, I won? And someone had to explain, no, it's the fat guy.
Well, the same thing could happen with Michael McGraw, because when they first said Michael, everyone
I thought it was
assumed
Michael
Cerveris from.
He was halfway to the podium.
Jesse, you saw the telecast. Good, bad, indifferent. How did this year's telecast work out?
I thought it was pretty good. I think they're beginning to realize that there is no broad audience for this show, and they're beginning to stop trying to do, hijinks to attract that crowd. I mean, there are celebrities on the show, but it's sort of insidery now.
Well, except for Hairspray on the cruise boat.
That was the
Well, they were going for the all-important
What's that going for?
advertiser
Yeah.
demographic, because that cruise company was advertising. And by the way, it was an interesting thing to note. I don't know if we've discussed this in some other venue. You always write about things in your little newspaper. But there was a special award for equity. For actors'
I
equity.
brought this up in my
All right.
newspaper.
Well, that's why you do it then.
All right.
But the Tracy Turnblad in that Hairspray thing was skinny and old.
No, hold on. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's just
Okay.
set this up. This was interesting and was a bit of a little controversy. Royal Caribbean was the sponsor of this year's Tony Awards, and so they wanted to broadcast from one of their cruise ships their truncated production of Hairspray. The problem, though, is that those productions are non-equity. They're non-union productions out at sea. And the irony was that this year the Tony Awards recognized Actors' Equity for its 100th anniversary. So there was some dissension about that. And Harvey Fierstein, who announced it, came out with his bathing suit on and all that kind of stuff. And Harvey, I talked to him later. I said, why did you do this? He said, darling, the only way I could get away with that was to make myself a figure of ridicule, for heaven's sake. But I would say to Equity, they should be very concerned, because I sat with a group of very, very high-powered theater producers. And after that Hairspray bit, one of them turned to me and he said, you know, those non-equity actors look pretty good to me.
Oh, they did not.
Oh, they did not.
That's what the
It was so clear that
No, that was the biggest.
That's what
the
the
grocery bagger from my
was-
store playing.
I think you're right.
And they had
That was
someone
the
who.
captain of the ship, Jesse.
At least they have shuffleboard.
Is that cheapening the brand of the Tony Award, Patrick, this relentless promotional nonsense that they do year in and year out? Would Isabel Stevenson be proud, the woman who used to protect the integrity of the Tonys?
No. No. Yes, it is cheapening the brand. Yeah, I think that was the nadir. I mean, I thought that all the musical numbers in the telecast, to the extent that I saw them, were fairly poorly chosen. I don't know if that accounts for the 9% dip in the ratings. But even the number from Once was not falling slowly.
Well, I think
the
they
Oscar
went for a
winner.
song that was not in the movie.
But I think the one
because-
that you want to pick is the one that would be most effectively convey the show and sell tickets, because that's what the
Well, I was,
Yeah, even
pretty-
the
I was
news
horrified
number
when they opened the show,
Yeah.
the Tonys, with a number from last year's
Right.
Best Musical, Book of Mormon.
Well, because
this year's are so
that's the only
terrible.
show that anyone probably has heard of.
And by the end of the Tonys, when I saw the number from Leap of Faith, the biggest flop in 20 years,
Which
I
was
like,
closed, by
doesn't
the
look
way.
that bad.
I agree. I think Leap of Faith did not look significantly worse than a lot of the shows that have survived and, in fact, were nominated. But it could be an artifact of the way there's a whole lot of politics around how you choose which number from your show you're going to put on the
Yeah.
air, and they usually get it wrong because they overthink it.
They
Yeah,
were
I
really
agree.
badly
I
chosen.
agree.
And they have to pay for it on top of it. It's really an expensive cost. And the Tony frequently adds to box office clout.
But I want to say though, with Peter and the Starcatcher and Once winning, that smaller things won, more kind of poor theater techniques won, and I thought that is that generational?
more inventive
more
theater
inventive
techniques.
things.
Poor?
And what? Yeah, well, no,
poor? As in, they
poor
weren't very good?
theater.
Capital
more
P,
inventive.
right.
Capital
Art.
P. It's
Oh,
a
your
theatrical
people.
term, darling.
Okay.
And the set designer from Once came in, who
Right,
did
Bob
Mary
Crowley.
Poppins in the past, but they asked him why he thought he'd beaten Spider-Man, and he said, well, he thought that the era of bling was over, that people were really sort of put off by big spectacular.
Did you
things.
see
that
the
why-
effort? Did you
is
see
that
the
why-
effort Rebecca that's coming next season?
And have you seen
But how long is that going
How
to run?
about King Kong? You know, King Kong's coming in. They're doing poor theater techniques into King Kong.
No, but it's so
coming
true
into
that this year they endorsed innovative,
Yeah.
almost downtown-y theater in
Yeah.
a way. And even if you don't like Once, and I had mixed feelings when I saw it off Broadway, it's a sincere show. It's not a crassly commercial show. But for Peter and the Starcatcher to win set, it's basically a rope. It's one
No,
rope.
it's
Yeah.
very.
No,
inventive.
it's very inventive.
But I'm saying what they did with what they had is not only a
both those
beacon to
shows-
producers when they can think of
Yeah.
smaller budgets,
Both the-
but it is truly innovative.
Yeah, both those shows came out of the New York Theater Workshop on 4th Street.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
I want to put in a good word for the choreographer of Newsies, Christopher Catelli, young kid who did a terrific job. That's the best thing about Newsies.
Well, I think
Is by far.
they got what they needed to out of the awards. They didn't get everything they might have wanted, but they got the score and they
For
got
Alan
the,
Menken.
Yeah.
They got the dancing, and that's what they're going to advertise.
And they danced
That'll
on
do
those
it.
papes really good.
Right.
They cut the palaver and they danced on the papes.
And I want
I saw Newsies.
But still, we do need to report on the ratings.
All right.
This is from the Wrap. Ratings. Tony Awards hit low. Despite a night that was heavy on repeats, the 66th annual Tony Awards slipped to an all-time low Sunday night, while ABC took an overall ratings win, and a Family Guy repeat was the night's top-rated program. Are we beginning to see the end of the Tony Awards, Michael, on network television?
It was just a year ago that the Tony Awards were a triumph. I think they won an Emmy Award for the Tony Awards. Remember how incredibly seamlessly entertaining it was, and everybody watched, even not just theater people. This
don't
year was a
recall
pale.
that.
I think I might
look it up.
agree with that.
This year was kind of seemed like a pale imitation, trying to be as witty and
Because this
warm,
was-
and it wasn't.
This year's Tony Award was the sequel to last year's Tony Award. It was the same creative team, and next year they're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have to
think
come up with
three
somebody new.
times is enough for a host. I think you got to refresh the whole thing with a new host next year and a new writing team coming, and it was perfect.
And they try to
fine.
work in Tyler Perry and Josh Groban. It's like people know these people have nothing to do with theater.
But it was remarkably lacking in star power among the competition as well. I mean, the biggest stars or the biggest box office draws, Ricky Martin wasn't even nominated.
And Matthew Broderick.
And
And I love the way poor Elena Roger, who plays Evita, had to just wander around the number
was-
as Ricky sang.
Isn't that bizarre? Have
And
you
so-
ever seen
A real vote of confidence for Elena there.
a number from Evita where they don't have Evita sing?
And Kristen Milioti had the same
Yeah,
choreography.
exactly. They were just sort of
Wandering lost on the stage.
like a stagehand.
That was pretty. That was
Wondering where did my part go? And where's my Tony?
That's right. At least Kristen Milioti was nominated.
But I just
Or
want to say,
Elena
I
Rogers
thought the
was
show was better than you all thought, and the reason is because I don't care about its reaching a larger audience, since that is dead.
Yeah.
I think that's gone, and if it ends up on PBS for the rest of eternity or online with our friend Patrick hosting, it's fine with me. For insiders, it was
Oh,
kind
on
of fun.
Theater Talk with your host, Susan Haskins, the show's producer, Michael Riedel of the New York Times.
And this one certainly had memorable moments, like the inflatable doll in the audience, and
There were cute things like
and
that.
Look it
hanging
up.
upside
And
down.
Neil Patrick Harris upside
for
down.
25 minutes.
Oh, by the
behind
way,
Angela
and
Lansbury.
you know whose joke that was? Harvey Firestein came up with that at a rehearsal of the Tony Awards to bring Neil Patrick Harrison upside down. Well, Angela Lansbury had to deliver the usual boring "Where the American Theater Wing" speech.
And I'll
That
never
was
forget Patty
very
LuPone
good.
with a lawnmower. I don't know what that was, but it
Well, she
seared
hasn't-
into my mind.
She hasn't worked on Broadway since Gypsy. I mean, she's trying to pick extra cash up there in Connecticut. So. All right, thanks guys for coming in and dissecting the Tony Awards. We will see you back in the fall to give us a preview of the upcoming.
That's right, and I brought you presents.
All
What
right.
did you bring?
Oh, thank
Is
you.
this Tony
I
swag?
brought you-
I know.
I brought you
Oh,
Tony
Susan, are you
swag.
recycling
All right.
the Tony of the freebies that you get?
Is it a scented candle?
Shampoo.
Oh, yes.
shampoo.
Oh.
It's
And
shampoo.
before we go,
What about me?
I've got once. What do you have?
Newsies.
where's my present, Charlie? Before we go, camera, Michael Musto is being honored tonight by Scott Stringer at the LGBTQ Pride celebration.
Yes, thank you. I'm being honored for my LGBTQ, BLT, whatever contributions.
What is
Lesbian,
Not
gay,
financial.
bisexual, transgender, questioning, queer, don't know, none of the
Did
above.
you guys settle on one name?
Hold the mayo.
Wow.
That's good, Susan. Great.
I'm impressed.
What is that?
It's more brand.
What is it?
It's a
Jesse,
capo.
don't-
I'm not opening
Orazio.
mine.
I'm getting ready for kinky
We're done.
boots.
I didn't even get money from this company. Okay, go on.
All right. We love it. Thank
Patrick
you.
Pacheco from New York One on Stage, Michael Musto from The Village Voice, Jesse Green, the only member of this panel who's managed to retain his dignity from New York Magazine.
Just barely.
Thanks for being a guest tonight on Theater Talk. And now we're joined by a Tony winner, but Susan, not just any Tony winner, a man who has won the Lifetime Tony Award Achievement for his contribution to the theater. He's a dear, dear friend of ours, one of the great producers of all time, Emanuel Azenberg. Welcome to Theater Talk.
Thank you both.
And congratulations on the Lifetime Tony Award Achievement. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you officially retire from this business? You've got the Tony Award, you can go home, and that's the end of it? Or are you still going to dip in here and produce occasionally? I mean, how many plays have you done? Plays and musicals? What are you up to now?
About 170.
170. So do you have any more that you want to do before?
Actually, I was kind of stimulated. There's something terminal about, lifetime achievement. I think they give you a watch and they expect you to keel over on the edge of the stage.
But you had announced your retirement a while back, right?
Absolutely.
But now you're
You're thinking.
you're hedging.
No, I've always hedged. I've said that if something came by that was intriguing,
Right.
so
But why did you retire?
I retired because the two plays that I did that season, one musical and one play, Ragtime and Brighton Beach, I didn't think there was an audience for it. I'm still very reluctant to act on my own taste.
Do you think?
I mean, I thought I got away with many years of what I liked there was an audience for, and I think that that's diminished.
That's interesting though, because do you think that anyone who's successful in the theater, a writer, producer, that you have your taste matches the public taste for a while, and then eventually it shifts. The public goes somewhere else, and you continue going down your path, and the public is no longer with you.
Exactly. It's generational, and I think it happens. I prefer a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, for example, rather than Hairspray
Or Rock of Ages?
or Rock of Ages.
That's where I knew I was generationally lost.
I'm not able to shift my genuine taste. So I've got as far as Billy Joel. I like Billy.
Well, you did Moving Out, a show that
Well,
I
that's-
loved, but that's not exactly contemporary either. That
No.
music's 30
Exactly.
30 years old now. How did you get into this business?
It's better than working.
But you came up the ranks, though, not as, we have so many producers today who come with bags of money from somewhere else, and you can instantly say, I'm a producer because I can write a check for $1 million. But that's not the world that you came out of.
No, the producers came out of something, either company managing or then a general manager, then a producer, or a stage manager. Hal Prince was a stage manager.
Yeah, yeah.
And you learned conceptually what you were doing. You also learned you didn't know anything, and you better hold on to that idea. Nobody really knows what's going to work. So.
Yeah, and now we've got more than 20 people billed just above the title.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
Yes, tell us.
Millions of people billed above
Yeah,
the
as
title.
producers, yeah.
Yes, what I tried to say at the Tonys yesterday, which I thought was funny, is that in Michael's television show Smash,
Thank you.
it's depicted that that you can get the lead in a Broadway musical by sleeping with the director or the producer. One, in real fact, with the directors, even with the great swordsmen of yesteryear, it didn't happen. There was always that integrity. After they got the job, all bets were off. But
It was
before, never.
But after.
And with producers nowadays, with all those people billed above the title, there'd be no time to rehearse. There are
didn't get a
33
laugh.
people got up there.
I laughed, but the rest of the house was kind of silent because
Well,
they're the 33.
We just thought that most of the people in the house were above the title. I mean, thousands of people.
Let me get your opinion. Just have a couple of minutes left, but I really want to know this drive for premium price tickets. I mean, I look at Book of Mormon, it's $500 for a ticket. Death of a Salesman, the last week or so, the last performance I think was up to $900. I understand it's a free market capitalist business and producers are entitled to make money to pay back the investors and to live. Where do you stand on this issue of these ticket prices going up and up? And up?
It's the beginning of the end.
Really?
Absolutely.
And
I don't think there's a doubt. Firstly, if you did a play in the old days, it ran for 2 years.
Right.
So you could start at any price, but the last 6 months it was available to young people or at half price, ticket booth, whatever you want. Think of the jobs that happened over a 2-year period. If you had a play and there were 8 people in the play and they left after 6 months and then another 8 people and then it went on the road and another set of jobs. And then there was a bus and truck company. So it played across America, and a lot of people got work and a lot of experience. Now, if a play is a success, it runs 4 months.
yeah.
And in order to get your money back, you depend on premium seats, which just keep skyrocketing. How many young people could go to see Death of a Salesman?
I mean, I
What it
remember.
ran, 14, 16 weeks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and at $300 a ticket or $200 a ticket or $400 a ticket.
Yeah. That's
How are young people?
But they
gonna go?
argue that they can't do it without Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's their argument.
Well, then it's indicative that the system is no
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Or look at it the other way. If Philip Seymour Hoffman got paid, he got paid $70,000, whatever he got paid. If he got that, then all the other actors got $2,000. Or if Philip Seymour Hoffman or Al Pacino in Merchant of Venice said, I understand the economics, I'll work for minimum. And all the other actors got $2,000
Yeah.
for 4 months. What do they do for the other 8? So the community diminishes. No, you can't live in this city with 4 months of work and then praying. It doesn't happen. It's doomed.
Yeah.
And do we keep raising the price?
Well,
There's
along
a story
with
around that
everything
there's
else.
a big star coming in next year, and his base salary will be $130,000.
Who's that?
Tom Hanks.
It's a rumor. I don't know that it's true. But if it is true,
Yeah.
think about it. What is it, big $1 million ticket?
Yes, I worked for the
What does he need?
I'll give you another problem.
$1 million
I'll give you another
ticket.
problem. Even at what we're talking about, the current situation, you're going to sit down with all the trade unions. Can you plead poverty? So
Right.
that the stagehand's price is going to go up. Every union is going to go up, and the spiral will just continue. And at some point, when it gets difficult,
When the
all of a
economics-
sudden, and you pull that brick out from underneath, it won't be repairable, reparable. It won't be. Something else will have to be created in which there is a better equilibrium between money and art. The actors get paid. There is some continuity. There is some if you get a job, you know that you're going to be working or possibly working for a year or two.
Well, it sounds.
It's good for the aesthetic.
I don't know, Manny. It's a little bit depressing there, but you've had a great career. Maybe it is time to take the Lifetime Achievement Award and watch and laugh from the sidelines.
Or Meryl Streep says, I think we should have a new theater, and it should be on 18th Street and 11th Avenue.
And I'll work cheap.
And everybody will get paid.
Yeah.
We're just going to divide the money up a little differently, and
We're off and running.
if you gave me 8 major performers who would commit to doing one play every 3 years for 4 months, maybe there'll be a different equation, an economic equation, and the restoration of the theater as a great art, as opposed to closer to a theme park than a cultural center.
A hopeful note
And
to
for
end.
that, I'm going to be killed later on, so this is a goodbye to both of you.
Manny Azenberg, thanks for being our guest tonight, and congratulations on the Lifetime Tony Award. Lifetime Achievement Tony Award, I think they call it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, we want to remember CORY DONNALLEY, one of the longtime supporters of this show, who passed away this month.
Yes, CORY and her husband Bob were really early supporters of Theater Talk and have been very,
They've been
very
supporters
loyal to
for
us.
it.
And in fact, we would not be here today, I think, without the support of Bob and CORY. So we will miss CORY, and we dedicate this show tonight to
And we want to
CORY DONNALLEY.
express our condolences to Bob and the DONNALLEY family.
Indeed.
Good night. Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the CORY and Bob DONNALLEY Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy STRELSIN Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.